夢をつかむことができない。
Mirko Cro Cop ignited a love for mixed martial arts in the hearts of millions. However, long before switching to MMA, the king of cemetery high kicks used to decapitate A-list killers in K1. And went down in history as the last champion of the great promotion. Today, we recall CroCop's legendary standoffs against the violent kickboxing gang of the 1990s. Mirko Filipovic was born in 1974 and did his first Van Damme-inspired split as a teenager after watching the famous movie Bloodsport. He trained extensively in his dad's garage from an early age, practicing the very strike that would make him famous years later. The speed bag was no good for punching, so Mirko would throw naked kicks. Actively competing in boxing while serving in the military, the Croat stayed in the amateurs until demobilization. When his army days were over, the 21-year-old Filipovic, with a record of 48-8, made his kickboxing pro debut right away at the K1 World Grand Prix 1996. The promotion did not give the newcomer a soft landing, matching him up with Jerome Le Banner. The Frenchman, dubbed Cyborg, had been taking lumps out of opponents for years. The chiseled assassin was considered so dangerous that the organizers were simply forced to call a cop. The wiry Mirko launched the operation by bombarding the torso and switched to the head without delay. Le Banner gathered his wits and kept on grinding, sneaking in shots in the clinch. Nevertheless, Filipovic continued hunting for the skull, leading the dance until the final bell. Piercing Cyborg's armor with a cross and taking the decision, the Croat advanced to the quarterfinals. Mr. Perfect, Ernesto Hoost, was waiting for him, the man who would win the World Grand Prix 4 times and be remembered as one of the greatest strikers in combat sports. Mirko set things in motion with kicks to all levels and meaningful punches. But the colossal gap in experience manifested itself in close quarters. The newcomer's compromised mobility made him a target for low kicks. And when the sound of slamming shins became unbearable, a sensational triumph was no longer viable. Mirko was not ready for the extreme level of opposition and took a break from K1. During this time, he captured several European titles and also acquired the nickname Croatian Cop, or Cro Cop for short, thanks to his service in an elite anti-terrorist unit. Filipovic returned in the spring of 1999 against the 6'11" Jan the Giant Norte. The South African was expecting an all-out slugfest. Meanwhile, the Croatian sniper unloaded a batch of body blows, flirted a bit with patented kicks, and cracked the giant's jaw. The The long hook reached the addressee, and Norte collapsed to the floor, in desperate need for aspirin. Mirko's next rival was more modest in size, crumbling in less than 2 minutes as a consequence. As deadly as Cro Cop's left high kick was, the right one certainly didn't lag too much behind. Acquiring more experience, Filipovic crashed the K1 World Grand Prix party again in 1999. In order to get to the final stage, he had to stop Mike Bernardo. Some called him the White Rhino, as he was a laid-back kind of guy outside of the ropes, but would turn into a bomb swinger with violent attitude once the bell rang. Be that as it may, Mirko was not the type to draw in his horns in the face of a challenge. Unwilling to let the wounded beast go, Cro Cop pressed on the gas and finished off Bernardo. The high kick triggered the emergency button in Mike's vestibular apparatus, and its author advanced to the Grand Prix in just a minute and a half. The old-school tournament format has not changed. The 8 best strikers on the planet would reveal the strongest among them in just one evening. In the quarterfinals, the 25-year-old Filipovic was met by Musashi, one of the most dangerous heavyweight kickboxers from Asia, as well as the Japanese schoolgirl's darling with explosive power and personality. Unfortunately for the initially aggressive Musashi, that night Cro Cop introduced some wrestling out of the blue. And after 2 dates with the canvas, the adversary heard a white noise. Following a flurry of left hands, the Japanese man folded under the might of the Croatian sledgehammers. Sam Greco was chomping at the bits in the semis, eager to leave another body for the paramedics. Filipovic let his hands do the job at the outset. But that lasted only until the Golden Globes shot. Cro Cop immediately unleashed the low kicks. And when the Aussie damaged his own leg, the end was nigh for him. Greco's flat tires was the price Mirko paid for the chance at the coveted belt. The Croat was never keen on reuniting with exes. Still, even with a hurt leg and a broken rib, he could not miss the rendezvous with Hust, who reached the final in style. Ignoring the injuries, Filipovic was throwing heat from the word go. In return, the Dutch Major Payne focused his attention on chopping down the legs. Mirko tried every trick in the book to sneak the Hail Mary through the block. However, by the third round, the low kicks took effect. The Croat slowed down and body shots started landing. The agony did not last long. The painful title campaign was put to a close with consecutive blows to the ribs. Back in those days, Hust's rivals rarely returned home to their wives in one piece. In 2000, Hiromi Amada was tasked with healing the Balenciaga cop's wounded pride. The Japanese Elvis showed his claws in the beginning. Then ate a pack of high-calorie offerings and took a moment to digest. Soon the Croat repeated the order. Amada's samurai spirit miraculously kept him upright. Until Mirko decided to book a ticket to the snooze cruise for the opponent. Hiromi's toughness was spent by the end of the fourth stretch. Imagine CroCop's surprise when he found himself in a rematch with the suddenly bald Amada at a local Grand Prix. Filipovic was superior to the samurai again, putting on a kicking masterclass. Culminating in a dynamite blast. On the same night, Mirko squared off against young Glaube Feitosa, a question mark kick virtuoso. CroCop took the flashy boot at the beginning personally and taught the impudent freshman a lesson. From that moment on, the Brazilian karateka's consciousness was hanging by a thread. Mirko pressured the future star for all 3 rounds. To give credit, Feitosa managed to find good moments himself. Despite 2 convincing victories in the Grand Prix, the Croat's leg injury was starting to take its toll. The old acquaintance Bernardo gave him no leeway. That same year, 2000, Filipovic and Andy Hoog delivered a battle for the ages. The blue-eyed samurai was the 1996 World Grand Prix champion, had the most impressive highlight reel in the history of the sport, an integral part of which were his kicks that are unmatched to this day. Fighting youth with experience, Andy pushed the cop back with wheel kicks and took aim at the legs. Mirko retaliated with heavy combinations. Then they tested each other in exchanges. Hoog was clearly playing a long point-scoring game. CroCop had a single-shot demolition in mind. Halfway through the contest, Andy shifted the focus to the midsection. and came out on the winning end of an axe kick trade. In dire need of a finish, Filipovic launched a last resort attack towards the end. Hug endured the storm and held strong on his way to a triumphant decision. A medieval forge was cooler than the ring that night, but it was in such wars that the legends of K1 were tempered. Sadly, Andy would pass away due to leukemia just 2 months later, and the clash versus CroCop will forever remain a monument to the blue-eyed samurai's unwavering will. For Mirko, this bout served as a sign of fate, since he would cross the Rubicon and debut in MMA at Hug's memorial event in 2001. Within the same time frame, Peter Aerts squared off against Filipovic. The Dutch lumberjack was a rare breed of fighter with knockout power in all his limbs. Still, neither of the 3 Grand Prix belts helped him stop the Croat's victory march. In 2002, Mirko shot down yet another kamikaze. And would only accept super fights ever since. The first challenge was extended by the future 3-time K1 king Remy Bonjanski, nicknamed the Flying Gentleman, for sportsmanlike manners and aerial executions. The high knee. Oh, jumping round kick! Following hefty flurries at the start, Remy's stellar striking fundamentals showed signs of degradation. And Mirko's weapon of choice got through completely unnoticed. It only went downhill from there. The referee waved the white flag for Bonjanski. A shin to the cranium reset Remy to autopilot, making him into the shiniest gem on CroCop's kickboxing collection. Not far behind on that list of trophies is Mark Hunt. Red hot after winning the last year's Grand Prix, the Super Samoan snatched a number of souls with his signature walk-off KOs. The impenetrable Hunt had to be reckoned with, and Mirko opted a considerate approach. Avoiding incoming damage, he forced the enemy to swing at the air. Tested the Samoan's sturdiness with a variety of kicks. And didn't shy away from teeing off in close quarters. Hunt would reach the nimble opponent here and there. Still, Filipovic dominated even in sports where most would get crushed. CroCop's master plan worked so well that he conditioned the rival to slip the cross to the outside. Right into a picture-perfect high kick. Hearing the funeral march, Hunt miraculously rose from the depths of the underworld. Nevertheless, Mark couldn't break the course of the one-sided fight, and the Croat walked away with a well-deserved decision. By flooring the reigning K1 overlord once and completely outperforming him technically, Mirko cemented his status as the promotion's biggest star. However, seduced by the bigger monetary incentives in MMA, Mirko wouldn't stick to kickboxing for long. CroCop's farewell took place in 2003 against Bob Sapp, who, judging by his looks, would test negative for blood in his juice circulatory system. Back then, the Beast at Psycho Peak was nothing resembling the funny guest performer he'd become later. And had recently dispatched Hoost himself on 2 occasions. Mirko nullified the monster's initial onslaught. Tickled the gallbladder, and fired a deadly combo. The 330-pound Sapp crashed on the deck with a scrambled liver and a broken orbital. Filipovic would walk away from kickboxing for 9 years and transform into the Croatian MMA sensation we know today. He came back after the K1 Golden Era ended. In 2012, Mirko retired Ray Sefo in a Veterans League bout.
He gets to this level, and these guys just going to a nice kick on the ropes. Is he ready doing the rope-a-dope? A tough one to call.
Filipovic would then go on to win a Grand Prix assembled for him specifically, the first one ever to be held outside of Japan. Having walked away from kickboxing with 26 victories, 13 knockouts, and 8 losses, the Croat continued competing in MMA until turning 44. He hung up the gloves in 2019 on a streak of 10 triumphs. And with a Ryzen belt on his waist. For a quarter of a century, CroCop was a symbol of imminent threat for anyone daring enough to share the ring with him. His impeccable high kick elevated its author to the pantheon of 9 K1 champions. In the process, Mirko brought a legion of passionate fans to our beloved fighting universe, and for that, we thank him dearly. If you enjoyed the video and want to see Mirko's career path in MMA, high-kick the like button, subscribe to the channel, and vote for sport.